Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Boil and Broth podcast. I am joined today by the amazing Lana. She is the Soco.fairydogmother, and I'm so excited to have Lana on because she is one of our beautiful ambassadors, and and she's come to us a while ago, just trying the products with Augustus, her dog, her beautiful dog. And just Lana's such an amazing person, and she's doing some really incredible things out there in the dog space. So I felt like it was really necessary to have Lana on so she could share a bit more about her journey with your dog Augustus, and also what sort of practices you've been doing over the years, and also what you're doing now and how you're helping other dogs in this incredible space. Because Lana, I don't know about you, but it's such a changing playing field being in the dog space that it's quite hard to keep up with everything. So I think it's really important to have people on that can just share more about what they're doing, and and just telling us all the wonderful things. So Lana, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Now listen, I know you're a little bit camera shy, but so please don't be camera shy. This is just me and you having a coffee. Well, actually, you're having a broth. You're very well behaved. I've got a gin. No, I'm joking. I've got water. I feel like I need a gin already, believe me. It's only 10 a.m. But anyway, welcome. Thank you so much. So Lana, I'm going to just hand the floor over to you. And I'd just love to hear more about yourself and about Augustus and about your incredible family that you were just sharing with me. So Lana, please do tell me more about yourself.
Hi, I am Lana, South Coast fairy dog mother. I've had to shorten it naturally to Soco. And I am Augustus's mum. I had dogs all my life, and the dog that I grew up with was a golden retriever who did have tummy problems, and my dad used to have to feed her just tripe and yogurt. Was about all she could tolerate. And she lived very well. She was a working gun dog, and she had an amazing life, and as the Goldies tend to do, she did develop cancer. It's a genetic trait, unfortunately, and so we lost her and I was about 12, and then there were no dogs really for a long time, and my auntie got a border terrier, and she had, I think I was about 18 when she got him. So I was in and out of uni, and sometimes I'd look after him and things like that. But he was very food sensitive. He escaped a few times and got run over. They live on quite a busy road. But very luckily, he had a full hip reconstruction by the one and only Noel Fitzpatrick, the super vet. And talking to him about his food intolerances and all the difficulties and things that she has with him and his itchiness, he mentioned about a special diet. So I always knew that Milo needed a special diet. And I think a lot of people know that their dogs need a special diet, but it's almost impossible to know what diet is going to work for which dog.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember that he used to have sweet potato and all these other different things. And so whenever Augustus was poorly, which when I did get him in 2020, he was planned. He was planned before the pandemic. But before I got him, I knew about it. I'd also been looking after my neighbour's border terrier for about 5 years, on and off, on an amazing website actually called Borrow My Doggy. It's like dating for dogs.
Oh,
he lived 2 roads away, and he used to come around, and when I lived in London, and we'd feed him steak, and he had just the best life. And he got to about 12, and I think he had a brain tumour. So unfortunately, while I was looking after him, I had to take him to the vets, and he was eventually put down, which was so sad. And I was ready to not have a dog. I thought this was a lot. what heartbreak, how can you ever replace a dog? But my partner at the time was quite keen to get another blue and tan border terrier boy to fill the massive hole that was left in our lives. And I did all my research, and I asked all the right questions, all the health tests. I went there and I visited him, and I saw the mum, and they brought out the dad, and there were lots of siblings, and they all looked happy and healthy and wonderful. And as a horsey girl at heart as well, they had horses, and she was a show jumper. So I thought, yeah, these guys can look after animals, because I know what it takes to look after competition horses. And I thought, great, I've got a top quality, beautiful puppy, fantastic. And I did have a couple of wobbles when I couldn't get hold of them at some point. But I thought, young girls, horses, they live in the countryside, kind of whatever, I let it go. And then it happened again, and I called the kennel club, and they said, no, they are very reputable breeders. They've been breeding for a very long time. That's what we can tell you. So I thought, okay, I really trusted the kennel club. And then it was time to collect my little darling baby boy Augustus. He was so small. He was so small. And I got the puppy package, they give you the food and the everything, and I got him home. And it started with him just screaming in the middle of the night with this white, cold, blood-curdling, petrifying, pure pain scream. And I picked him up the day before lockdown. So the vets were all pretty much closed. You couldn't go in there, you couldn't do anything. It was only going to be 2 weeks. So I thought, okay, well, let's just see how this progresses. And I did tell the breeder, but they weren't really interested. They said, oh, just, talk to your vet. I got him straight in on the puppy check. So he had his vaccinations immediately, but their vaccination program didn't correspond to the breeder's vaccination program. So then he was double jabbed just right off the bat. And he was a good puppy. He bounced back. He ate. Oh my goodness, he ate his body size in food. And they just gave me IAMs, but he would still sometimes wake up screaming. And when I would have him on the bed, just as a little tiny puppy, I could feel his tummy just cramping. And I thought, oh, I wonder whether that's normal. I haven't experienced this before. And then he was just wild. He was wild. I had a border terrier puppy, and didn't I know it? But he couldn't settle, and anything I did didn't seem to work. I felt really quite stuck, but also, there were no puppy classes. I didn't know who to trust, who to turn to, because the entire industry is very unregulated, and I didn't know. I followed my vet's advice. I trusted my vet. He had all of his flea, tick and worm medications, and he'd be really poorly, and then he'd be okay, and then he'd be poorly, and then he'd be okay. And they said, oh, well, if he's all right now, then he's all right. And I thought, okay, until tomorrow, and then I'll send them another picture of dog poop with blood in it or whatever. Always a red flag. Always go straight to your vet.
Yeah,
and they just
absolutely
weren't really bothered.
So you were having issues with him really from birth, although you don't know obviously that part of his journey. But obviously when you got him, he was 6 weeks old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think he was 9 weeks old. I left it quite late because I wasn't sure.
So really you were experiencing and seeing something happening with his digestion or with his food, that something was wrong. And Lana, did you feel like you weren't getting the support that you needed? Did you feel like you were sort of, becoming quite frustrated with the whole experience? we do tend to, because obviously in the business, you know, let's talk about this frustration, right? Because it's a real thing. And in the business, we see so much of that from our side of things, that, you know, people come to us when they're really at the end of their tether, that they've tried everything and cannot get help. So was that the same experience for you, Lana?
I tried everything. He had prostatitis. They wanted to castrate him at under a year old to remove his testicles to reduce his inflamed prostate. And I knew that because there were little blood patches where he would lie, and it was coming out of his prepuce. So his willy was bleeding, and obviously that's not okay. And he was licking it constantly. And they said, oh, maybe he's got a UTI. And then he had just like antibiotics followed by antibiotics followed by antibiotics.
Yeah.
And if I knew then what I know now, everything would have changed. But I had to go through this process. He was tested for everything from Addison's disease, just constant blood panels, specialist referrals. I'd get to the specialist and they say, well, he doesn't have any skin problems. He's the healthiest looking dog we've ever seen, and just sent me away. And it cost me thousands of pounds. Luckily he was insured, but I still had an excess to pay on everything, and it still cost thousands of pounds. And I got to the point where they said they needed to do, he had all the scans, he had all of his tummy shaved all the time, he had, you know, little bandages around his legs where he'd had drips and, you know, all sorts of horrible things done. He had a prostate wash to see what the infection was. The things I threw everything at it. I trusted the vets and the specialists and their advice and knowledge and information, and I got nothing. So then it was up to me, and very luckily for me I got a new neighbour who supported me to push my vets and push my vets and push my vets, because I was just getting fobbed off, thrown away. And we would go for a walk on a Friday morning, put the world to rights without the dogs, and she would listen to everything that I had to say, and she'd say, oh, it sounds like allergies. And I said, no, he's not got allergies, his skin is fine. He had the odd ear infection, but you know, it's cleared up. Dogs get things. Yeah, he's sick sometimes, but you know, sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And I just trusted that, you know, this is normal, because it became my normal, even though in my entire life's experience that hadn't been the case. And so she said, oh, why don't you try this food, and you can look at this website and you can find out this. I was like, okay. So then, you know, I went on All About Dog Food, and I tried the best, highest rated raw for puppies, and I did the whole protein rotation. You know, I literally did absolutely everything. And my neighbour said, maybe you should get a blood allergy test or something. So I did that.
So she was quite insistent with this, right? That it was allergies. And
for her, it must have been like banging her head against honestly, I feel so badly for her, because I wish she'd just grab me and shake me and go, get a blood test.
So what did you discover from the blood test? So did it reveal allergies?
A lot. Everything.
Wow.
So what I knew is that he could have lamb, he would happily eat lamb, but he couldn't have chicken, he couldn't have turkey. They said, you know, beef is a maybe, but he had all the grasses, all the molds, all the dusts, all the environmental stuff. But he also had, you know, corn, wheat, soya, legumes, tomatoes, white potatoes. It's like pretty much everything except lamb. So then I had to double blind it with an elimination diet and see actually what was he going to react to. So he lived on JR Pet Products lamb pate for about 3 to 6 months while I did this test. It's great because obviously you can smush it, you can mash it, you can chop it. There's lots of, you know, things you can do to keep it more interesting for a dog that was refusing to eat. that was on anti-anorexia medication, anti-sickness medication.
Wow. So
And he
just
was
pause
living-
there, Lana. So that's a really interesting point. So did you find that Augustus he was just not wanting food? Was that your experience with him? Because I think dogs can tell us so much about what's going on with them. And obviously as humans, it's quite hard to understand, you know, it's like writing a book, isn't it? When you say show, don't tell, it's like the dog's literally showing, you know, I don't want to eat because the food is disrupting me. So was that your experience with Augustus, that he was just, you know, totally off food and you couldn't get him to eat anything?
he was just refusing food, and my partner at the time would have to get down on all fours and pretend to eat out of the dog bowl. I used to feed him out of a dustpan and brush. He used to eat out of yogurt pots. I would try and scatter feed. I would try and feed him with find it games. And he was a lot happier to eat not in a bowl, but then he wouldn't eat it again. So he would try it, you know, and then he would be poorly, and then he'd say, no, I can't have that. But I knew it was hypoallergenic, and I knew that it was the best puppy food, and I knew that it was you know, expensive, or it was hypoallergenic, or it was vet recommended, or the Border Terrier groups on Facebook had said, oh, well, you know, mine's on Royal Canin, or have you tried Tails? You know, all of these personalized, you know, amazing, highly recommended, expensive dog foods. And I thought, this will be the one. This will be the one. This will be the one. They were never the one. Not a single one.
So what did you do, Lana? Did you start creating your own diet for him? And what was your experience when you were discovering that none of these foods are really supporting him? I mean, obviously you mentioned you used JR Pet products, lamb pet pate. Obviously you didn't feed that. It's not just what he's eating now, is it? So so how did you get from the transition of just doing that to where he is now? And
found some dog foods that were lamb based. And then he would still be ill. So he also has a genetic condition called canine epileptoid cramping syndrome, also more recently known as paroxysmal gluten-induced dyskinesia.
Oh my gosh, shut the mouth.
It's called lots of different things in lots of different breeds, and they all have each breed has a slightly similar symptoms, but the Border Terriers suffer the most. So up to 50% of Border Terriers now, due to line breeding, suffer on somewhere on the spectrum. And this is why we have grain-free food. But what really annoys me that I've recently discovered is not all grain-free food actually is grain-free. And the whole point that it is grain-free is that it's gluten-free. And yet they'll still have barley or brewer's yeast or these dangerous components in them. So he was still being poorly and waking up at about 3 a.m, eating grass, being sick, couldn't settle, his stomach was gurgling, he was itching his ears off. I couldn't give him the flea tick or worm medication anymore, because after I gave that, I'd have to go to the out of hours vet for a steroid injection to make him stop itching his ears off because they were bleeding so badly. And I knew that they could be bad for some dogs, but I thought, no, he's fine, until he wasn't.
Well, it's the same. It's the same in the doctors, you know, when you go and have all your different tests at the doctors, and then they come back and they say, oh no, there's, you know, your tests are clear, there's nothing wrong, but you know that there is something wrong and something not right. It's exactly the same situation. It's a crazy time, and it's just so important that, you know, the right people are out there sharing the right message. And I think that, you know, vets and those in those, you know, pharmaceutical, they'll never be open to it. Vets will be, because they can at most, and doctors, they can mostly have a choice, you know, particularly if they're independent. You know, and pet food, I do think there's a massive shift in the pet food space. You know, we're seeing more of the natural pet food, but do you know what, it does crack me up. It cracks me up, because what they do is they say, oh yeah, this product is natural, But it's only because they've put some sort of natural ingredient in it, or it's got so-called natural ingredients. But those so-called natural ingredients could be seed oils, they could be, you know,
Pea
you mentioned pea protein, you know, what's
glycerin.
the other classic one? Oh, there's so many of them. But, and you know, but they're like, oh yeah, but it's all natural. And it's like, well, it's not really though, is it? Because it's, you know, been highly processed to get to the point that it's in now. Even though you might have used those ingredients, it's still gone through multiple heat treatments, multiple, you know, preservation techniques. You know, I mean, we had the same battle in the bone broth space, you know, these so-called bone broth powders that are out there, you know, oh, it's dehydrated. No, mate, it's not dehydrated, it's hydrolyzed. Oh, and most of them have no idea because they're not making it themselves. They're getting some other third party to make the broth for them. So they've got no idea. So they just think, oh yeah, boiling broth are doing that. We'll put the same down. Your product is not natural. It doesn't use natural ingredients. It's highly processed. And at the end of the day, most of them are hiding ingredients that they're adding in and not declaring it on the labels. That's not just the bone broth space. Yeah, I know. It's every blinking pet food out there, you know, because yeah, they just, you know, and at the end of the day, it's so unregulated, you know, that you even like, so from our perspective, we've tried to, there's one particular bone broth powder that's out there that keep claiming they're dehydrated, and we've reported it to the ASA, the Advertising Standards Agency, we've reported it to DEFRA, we've reported it to our local trading standards officer. None of them help. None of them help. So if it's like this for us, then it's like this for other people. You know, customers could be complaining about brands, nothing's getting done. So the only way that we can do it is relying on customers to say, don't use this brand because of this reason, or, you know, other experts in the field, don't choose a different brand because of this reason, you know. So yeah,
every ingredient counts. Every single ingredient.
It does. And you know, and what you were saying earlier about your dog, you know, dogs are small. They are small. They're tiny. You know, their digestive system is tiny. Their stomach is tiny. They don't need much food. They don't need much of anything to create a reaction either. You know, so people are often surprised that a small dog only needs 2 grams of our dehydrated bone broth per day. That's it. They don't need any more, 2 grams. But it's because the digestive system is so tiny. You know, for an adult human, you only need 5 grams of our dehydrated broth, you know. So for a small dog, you don't need much at all. And yeah, and I think that when you've got true products like that, you don't need to be feeding your dog all this massive amounts of food, and you know, because if you're feeding your dog small amounts of the quality stuff, then they're going to do well. They're going to have the energy anyway. They're going to have enough energy to operate their body, to do what they need to do, you know. So
quality
yeah, it's
over
important.
Quantity, Rachel. And
Absolutely.
Also, I think what people expect is a bit of a silver bullet, and they think, oh well, you know, if I give them a lot of this, then that will do the job. And you can't just do one thing. It's never one thing. It's lots of different things. And then that's where the lifestyle comes in. So when I help people, sometimes I blow their mind. I can be a bit much because I'm very passionate about it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
But there's a lot to learn. And so what, apart from kind of diet consults and giving people information, what I also do is create a bit of a diet plan for them. And it's not just like a 1 week thing. It will be a 1 month minimum, sometimes 3 or 6 month diet plan, because it's about consistency. And you're not going to see a change overnight. You know, you can't just give bone broth once and be like, oh, that's it, I've done it. You have to give it consistently for a while. You have to give these things time to work. You need to give the body time and the right opportunity to heal. And that's the first part in my protocol, is heal, rebalance, and then manage and maintain. And if you can't heal, it doesn't matter what else you're doing. If you're changing the food down the line, you're still putting it into a broken system. You're still going to get all the problems in terms of intolerances and allergies, and all the symptoms are still going to come out. You haven't actually healed the system yet. And vets are great, but they will stop the smoke coming out of the house, but they're not going to put out the fire. And so healing puts out the fire rather than just turning, I use so many analogies, there's so many, but you know, you can't just turn the oil lamp off on your car and expect your car to be fine. You know, you can't just medicate with, you know, steroids like Apoquel or Cytopoint and be like, oh, well, they're medicated. You know, that's not a long-term solution, because everything has a side effect. And as much as if you're giving these drugs and medications over time, or like I did when I trusted my vet's advice, which was give 3 months of antibiotics, I had no idea the damage I was doing to that poor baby dog's digestive system. And you know, he was better on it than off it, but it didn't actually fix anything down the line. I just got longer down the line with a more broken dog, and what I needed to do was heal him, remove the triggers, and then manage and maintain. And that's why it's so important to do small amounts over time and build up, because people might not realize that maybe their dog has got a chicken intolerance, and they might have gone on chicken bone broth, for example, not realizing that that dog can't have chicken. Be a trigger. They'll give it an egg or something without thinking, oh, that's a chicken egg and not, I don't know, a duck egg or whatever. My dogs get duck eggs.
I might have to come and live at your house. It sounds like you're great food there. Oh, Lana, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that everybody that watches or listens to this will absolutely learn something. And I'm sure as well that if, you know, people need some support, then they should absolutely get in contact with you, because clearly you are the fairy godmother, the fairy dog mother.
I love to help. I love to see these dogs turn around, and I love to be able to empower owners and dog guardians to feel more in control and understand what's going on, because there is a lot of new science and it's coming out constantly, and I'm very lucky that I've got an amazing global network of the bleeding edge of this science, and I'm just absorbing it all. And
what a blessing, what a true blessing. Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's been amazing chatting to you, and lovely to hear that Augustus is doing so much better now as well. And yeah, we'd love to have you on a bit another time if you'd be interested. Perhaps you would share some more of what you've been learning, and and maybe I should get on some of these people you've been saying on the podcast. Let's to get them on and interview them if they'd be interested.
Gladly,
yeah, that would be amazing. Maybe we could get a few of you on. That would be even more exciting. All right, fantastic. Well, I think going to wrap up there. But for anyone who wants to find Lana, where can they find you, my love?
You can find me. I have a website, Soco.fairydogmother.com. I'm also on Instagram, which is my primary platform, which is Soco.fairydogmother. And I do have a Facebook page where I share all the blogs and articles that I write around border terriers, health conditions. So I've got a puppy, what do I do now? And what's the difference between, you know, an allergy and an intolerance? You know, what does it all mean? So I try and help people understand and have a reference point there. At the moment, there's more coming.
Amazing. Good. Well, maybe you could write us a guest blog as well. That would be amazing.
Always.
Thanks, Lana. All right. Well, it's beautiful to catch up with you. You take care, and take care of your Augustus too. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.